Combine Week, Falcons fans. Welcome into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. My name is Moose. Obviously, now that Kyle Pitts has been franchise tagged, we have to focus our sights on everything else that's going on this week, and that, of course, being the NFL Combine. One of my favorite things to watch during the offseason. So, what does today's episode entail? Obviously, as we get to the start of the 2026 offseason, this is about the time that it officially begins, in my opinion. If you're a true NFL fan, you know that from the end of the regular season, which is at the very beginning of January, to right about now, there's a lot of there might be breaking news, head coaching stuff, and maybe a couple players get released or re-signed, but this is the beginning of the new league year officially. So, with it being Combine Week, Chat Sports is at the Combine, boots on the ground. We're going to be giving you nonstop daily videos with Combine content, including player interviews, coaching interviews, GM interviews. So, if you subscribe today and be, let's say you're number 11 on the 20 subs goal, I will do my very best to overload your YouTube timeline with nonstop Falcons Combine content. On today's episode, the 3 things the Atlanta Falcons could do, big things they can do during Combine Week. Now, one of them has to do with being at the Combine and what you can actually physically see. But the other 2 things are things that you can kind of talk about if you're Ian Cunningham with Matt Ryan, who I'm assuming is going to be right alongside IC at the old scouting combine. First thing that you can do if you are Cunningham and Matt Ryan is cut Darnell Mooney. Why? It just makes too much sense at this point. And actually, if you don't feel like cutting Darnell Mooney, that might bleed into our second reason, which we'll touch on here in the back half of this episode. But we will see a full scope of wide receiver talent this week in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium. The very best college football wide receivers are going to be showing up, and making their presence felt in front of all of these scouts, GMs, presidents, and owners. And the Falcons need more wide receiver help. You can't roll out with Drake London as your number 1. Massive gap, Darnell Mooney. It's not going to work. Even if Michael Penix is ready to go, it's not going to work. Even if Darnell Mooney is healthy, it's not going to work. You need to add at this position in free agency or in the draft, whenever, add to it. There's a couple of guys that I think the Falcons should be looking at because they don't have a first-round pick. You could be looking at a couple of guys that are day 2, day 3 picks. Malachi Fields from Notre Dame, Elijah Surratt, Brennan Thompson, Jeremy Bernard. Now, we've touched on a couple of players on this list already. One guy that I definitely want to highlight, though, in today's episode, Brennan Thompson from Mississippi State. If you're an SEC fan and you know anything about Georgia football, this is probably somebody you've seen on the field before. There is speculation that this young, plucky, 5'9", 170-pound wide receiver is that he's the fastest at the combine. We're talking sub 4.3 40. Straight line vertical speed, something that Zach Robinson took away from Michael Penix Jr., took away that deep ball, and really the Falcons didn't have anybody that could stretch the field as fast as this guy could. His pro comparison, because we love a good pro comparison here on the channel, is Tank Dell. Shades of Tank Dell is actually what it said, but that's about as close as you're going to get. As far as the production from last year's numbers, at Mississippi State, which is not conventionally known as a powerhouse in the SEC, the numbers are great. Highlighted by the average of 18.5 yards per reception. That's outstanding. That is Alec Pierce territory. When you're getting up towards 20 yards per reception, you are a chunk, explosive player, and that is what the Falcons crave. That's what Moose craves. And now Cunningham has the opportunity to do his homework. He now has the opportunity, because he speaks at 10 a.m. on Monday, to go out and tell you exactly what kind of player he's going to covet at each position. And that's exactly what I would be coveting if I'm Ian Cunningham on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, especially when it comes to the wide receiver position, which, by the way, he's not shy to drafting. If you go back to his time in Chicago, he's taken 4 wide receivers in the 4 years that he's been there. That is 1 per draft. Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, Tyler Scott, more of a special teams player, same with Velus Jones. So he's 2 for 4 on his hits. But the one area that I'll give him a lot of credit for is that he wasn't the one with the final decision. It was Ryan Poles. So he has had his hand dipped in this area, but it's never been his responsibility. So I trust Ian Cunningham to make the right decision. I'm excited to hear him speak tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the time of this recording. That is on Monday, Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So it'll be 9 Central here in Dallas. But if you're excited to hear Cunningham talk, give me a 10 on the scale of 1 to 10. And if you're like, nah, I could care less, give it a 1. But if you're a real Falcons fan, it'll be as close to 10 as possible because I'm at a 10 right now. Now, coming up next, I'll give you the other 2 big moves the Atlanta Falcons can make. One is at the Combine, and the other one is another one off the field. But before we do that, got to tell you about my friends over at Harry's. As the hairiest guy you know, every single day is a battle with my facial hair, and that's why I trust Harry's to get the job done correctly. Let's be honest. If your old razor irritated your neck, if it was way too expensive, $30 for some refills, that's insane. You got to get Harry's Plus. It is the heaviest razor handle ever. Made from metal, never plastic. Designed to fit comfortably in your hand with that heavier handle, meaning a more control and luxe feel. Harry's doesn't make razors, although they've got a full line of grooming essentials, from shave gel to deodorant to body wash, all thoughtfully made and priced up to stock. All of Harry's blades, by the way, and grooming products can be delivered right to your door, so your preferred schedule can be set and you can never run out of blades again. For a limited time, our listeners can get the Harry's Plus trial set for only $10 at harrys.com/chat. This set includes the all-new Harry's Plus razor, 1 refined 5-blade cartridge, a 2-ounce foaming shave gel, and a travel cover to protect your blades on the go. Just head on over to harrys.com/chat to claim this offer, and after you purchase, they're going to say, hey, where'd you hear about us? Please tell them that Moose from Falcons Today sent you. All of that in the comments and description of today's video. The second move that you can make during the Combine is you could trade for Denzel Ward. In principle, can't make any trades until the new league year starts, which is officially March 9th, the legal tampering period. Keyword there, legal. But if you trade for Denzel Ward, in principle, it could go officially through on the 9th. Now, hear me out here, because remember when I said this is going to bleed into number 2? This is where I kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You ready for this? I'm about to cook. I'm about to get deep into my bag. Here we go. If you decide that Mike Hughes is no longer the answer on the outside of A.J. Terrell, you could call up the Cleveland Browns, who you've clearly now kind of turned into the Atlanta Browns with all the coaches that we're bringing over. You could call them up and say, hey, look, we're going to give you a 2027 conditional 3rd-round pick, and based off of incentives, that could turn into a 2nd, and we'll give you Darnell Mooney for Denzel Ward. I think the Browns make that deal in a heartbeat. Now, you might be looking at that going, well, it sounds like a lot to give up. Well, Darnell Mooney at this point is probably worth a 6th. So you'd essentially be giving up a conditional 3rd, maybe a 2nd, and a 6th for Denzel Ward. That's a pretty fair compensation package, in my opinion. And Bleacher Report believes that Cleveland might be looking to deal him out. Here's what they said. The way that the Browns do business doesn't afford them a lot of trade candidates that would actually clear out space. Denzel Ward is one of the most notable. A pre-June 1st trade would create $3.2 million in savings, which is kind of pennies on the dollar. It's not a lot of money, but he's still a name to keep an eye on. He's never played a full season with his concussion issues. He's had 6 now, I believe, in his NFL career. He's been good enough to still warrant a pick, so this could be their best chance to get return for him. And I'll explain what I mean coming up here a little later on. But taking a look at the last 4 seasons, despite the fact that he has not finished a full season yet, he still plays the majority of the time. And we're talking about a guy that is just an absolute demon, right? 19 pass breakups in 2024, 9 in 2025, given up plenty of yards, receptions allowed as well. But I'll be the first one to say, Denzel Ward is a lockdown corner on the opposite side of A.J. Terrell, and that becomes the best cornerback duo in the league. And you can't convince me otherwise. Both of those players are excellent at their respective positions. And why would Cleveland be willing to trade Denzel Ward? Well, the first reason is they ruined the relationship with Jim Schwartz. Ward said it himself. There's only one defensive coordinator he wants to play for, and that was Schwartz. Well, Cleveland botched that up. Surprise, surprise. Ward played 5 seasons with Kevin Stefanski, so there's already familiarity there. And the trade value for the Browns might be the highest it will ever get. Think about it. If he's had 6 concussions and nobody or the Browns are not willing to move off of him just yet, you're getting another year older, risking another year of concussions. Then what? Ward's trade value goes down to, what, a 5th, maybe a 6th round pick? This is the highest it will ever be. So if you're Ian Cunningham, you can make the move and cross cornerback off the list. It's not even something you have to address because then you've got plenty of depth. You've got Kobe Bryant waiting in the wings that can develop under A.J. Terrell a little bit more and develop under Denzel Ward. Hell, maybe even Natrone Brooks could find something to squeak out. Clark Phillips is another name to keep an eye on, depending on his future with the Dirty Birds. So there are plenty of reasons why this makes sense. The last and final thing that you can do at the Combine, scout the 2026 quarterbacks. Whoa! You're not saying to draft a quarterback, are you? Nope. No, I'm not. I don't think you draft a quarterback this year, but this would be the perfect opportunity for Ian Cunningham to get practice reps. See what you like and what you don't like as a GM, specifically with the quarterback position. All of this, by the way, is ethereal, right? Because if Michael Penix can play, then great. You don't have to worry about quarterback. But this is the ideal opportunity to really get comfortable with sitting in as a GM and identifying what traits and what kind of players you like as a GM, specifically for the most important position on the football field. 2026 Combine prospects that you'd be looking at, by the way. Drew Allar, Sawyer Robertson, Taylen Green. All of which, by the way, are going to be day 3 picks. Allar's projected in the 5th, and Sawyer and Taylen Green projected in the 6th. So in the event that we end up getting more draft capital, if Cunningham decides to trade down, you can still decide to draft a quarterback. Now, I'm not advocating for that because I don't think anybody in this draft class is really good enough. But if we all agree that the Falcons aren't going to draft a quarterback this draft, what's the harm in doing any extra scouting if you're Cunningham? This is really where he can flex his GM muscles. And if there's somebody that really wows him, jumps off the page, becomes a sleeper in this draft, he can always trade down, keep his eye on that player, and then make the call. Hello, ex-player. You have been selected by the Atlanta Falcons in the 2026 draft. I think there's a lot of upside to being able to just sit back and not necessarily take a quarterback. It allows you to look at things in a different perspective. So should Atlanta draft a quarterback this coming draft class? Probably not, in my opinion. I would much rather sign a veteran at this point and just have him ride behind Michael Penix Jr. and then take over if Penix either gets injured again or just isn't the guy. We will see. But it is Combine week nonetheless. So if you want non-stop Atlanta Falcons coverage, videos surrounding players, GMs, coaches, all the interviews, subscribe today. Help us get 20 subs on today's video. That's all I got for you, Falcons fans. As always, rise up and be cool.